Welcome to the workshop. We want to continue taking a look at the first section of the appendix, which is statements and connectives. And the connective that we want to look at now is actually called a conditional statement. So it's the conditional connective, essentially. So let's take a look at the notes. So an if-then statement, right? The conditional statement is true very frequently, and it's actually easier to describe it by when the conditional is false. So the conditional is false when, right, the conditional P, Q, which can be said P implies Q. The conditional P implies Q is false when P is true, this one's true, and that one is false. Okay, that's the only time that the conditional statement is false, and it's true otherwise. So it's not quite intuitive when we phrase it this way as to when it should be true and when it shouldn't be true, in terms of maybe why it's like this. It might seem a little bit weird. So what I want to do really quickly is take a look at a rule and think of a statement that we have that we're calling a rule. So you may have had a rule such as this when you're growing up. If your room isn't clean, then you can't go out with your friends. All right, mom wants you to keep your room clean. Dad wants you to keep your room clean. Your friends want you to keep your room clean. Okay, so if your room isn't clean, you can't go out with your friends. So, all right, well, in what scenarios do we actually have that the rule is broken? Because when the rule is broken, what we're doing is we're saying, ha ha, mom and dad, your rule is false. I broke it. I went out with my friends. Okay, and that sort of thing. So when we break the rule, we're saying that the statement is false. If we don't break the rule, then the rule still holds and it's true. Okay, so that's the idea here. So if your room isn't clean, then you can't go out with your friends. So there's 4 scenarios that we can look at when the if part is true, and when the if part being true or false, and the then part being true or false, right? 2 options gives us 4 total combinations. So your room isn't clean, shame on you. Your room isn't clean and you did not go out with your friends. Now, not everybody's room is clean all the time. It's okay. Yeah, you don't have to have a clean room at this instant. But I would encourage you to clean it when it gets free time. So your room isn't clean and you did not go out with your friends. Did you break the rule? No. Rule not broken. Rule not broken. And that's the same as, let's see here. That's the same as saying that the statement is true. Is it true that if your room isn't clean, then you can't go out with your friends? Yes, because that's what you did. Your room wasn't clean and you did not go out with your friends. All right, so what about if your room isn't clean and you did go out with your friends? Oh man, you're gonna get in trouble, right? You broke the rule, so the rule is broken. And when we break the rule, what we're saying is that the statement is false. All right, so these last 2 situations might seem a little bit weird, but right, you want to talk about technicalities here. So your room is clean. Well, what do I care about the rule? You don't care. The rule doesn't apply, is what you might think to yourself. Rule doesn't apply. So it can't be broken. Right, the rule is not there for you to say that you can't go out with your friends. The rule is there for you to ignore because your parents want your room clean. So the rule doesn't apply because your room is clean, you went out with your friends, or you did not go out with your friends, and that's perfectly fine. You didn't break the rule, okay, because it didn't apply. Since you didn't break the rule, the statement is still true. Okay. And then finally, same situation, your room is clean, so the rule doesn't apply. Doesn't apply. So it can't be broken. That is, the statement is true. So you can think of it that way. When are you breaking the rule? Well, you only break the rule in one case. When your room is not clean and you do go out with your friends. Okay. Otherwise, the statement is true. The rule has been followed. So the conditional can be stated in three ways, and the most frequent way for us to consider it is this first way of writing it, if P then Q. That's the most frequent way you're going to see it. But that's how you can say this, if P then Q. Now that's maybe not super nice with the notation because you'd have to say if before you said P, but the notation doesn't come until after P. So a lot of times it's also said P implies Q. So you'll hear it, P implies Q a lot, but you'll write it if P then Q. And then the weird way to say it is Q if P. Okay, the or was there because it's three things I'm listing here, this, or this. So if P then Q is the way you probably want to write it. P implies Q is probably the way you want to say it. And then Q if P, you could write it or say it that way if you felt so inclined. Okay. All right. So with the idea that we can say this P implies Q, conditionals are also called implications. So for the conditional P implies Q, P is called the premise, while Q is called the conclusion. Those things aren't necessarily important themselves, but as we begin our discussion on proofwriting in section 3, then we'll talk about premise and conclusion a little bit more. Yeah, we'll talk about premise and conclusion a bit more. So it is something that we do want to know, but it's not a huge focus in this particular section. All right. Thank you for your time so far. A little bit more to do in section 1 of our appendix. So I'll see you guys back in the workshop very shortly.